Good morning, everyone. At the outset, I welcome you all to this historic event, a milestone in the history of IISER Bhopal. As we step into the journey of our second academic decade, we have amongst us distinguished guests, faculty members, staff, and students as a witness to this memorable occasion. As they say, Rome was not built in a day, and so was IISER Bhopal. IISER Bhopal came into existence in 2008, occupying just 2 floors of a section of the ITI Gas Rahat building, which happened to be our transit campus. A batch of just 18 students who started their journey in August 2008 subsequently became the first set of alumni of IISER Bhopal in 2013, graduating from this very hall. The small smoky laboratories, the shared offices, and the ever-increasing entropy within the transit campus did not ever dampen the spirits of the community members. The contributions of all our chairpersons, board of governors, and our founding director have been monumental in shaping our institute. Additionally, all our faculty members, dedicated staff, and the motivated students have always been a true inspiration in making this transformation possible. From the Manohar Dhaba to the newly functional Cafe Coffee Day, from an arid zone with one solitary tree to a lush green sprawling campus. Yes, IISER Bhopal has come a long, long way. Awards, accolades, research grants, and publications came thick and fast, and IISER Bhopal is repetitively featuring in the Nature Index reports due to academic excellence. Honestly, we have all grown along with our own institute, with a sense of pride and belonging. Today, as we look at these tall buildings, a fully functional campus, vibrant young students, and an academic ambience within IISER Bhopal, we do feel satisfied. However, our responsibilities have only increased as we are now more accountable to the society in general. We have amongst us our director, Padma Shri Professor Vinod K. Singh, who perhaps has seen it all, building this institution brick by brick. I now welcome him to kindly address the gathering and share his experiences over the last decade.
Good morning. At the outset, I would like to welcome today's chief guest, Professor Vijay Raghavan. It is his first visit to our campus. Also, we welcome other distinguished guests who are in our audience, and you will know more about them as we proceed further. Before wasting time, every time when I have to address, I show some slides. And this is important for all the first year students because they have not seen it, and all new guests. And rest will have to bear it because they may have seen more than one time. This slide I added after we had our act, because when ICERs were created, I had a different opinion. I never liked parochial attitude. I never want science to be separated from other disciplines. I like holistic university system. You cannot have a separate science department, engineering department. To an extent, some of the institute, they call it basic science. That irritates me more because there's nothing called basics. So, if you go to Caltech, you have a Department of Chemistry and Chemical Engineering, and Professor Vijay Raghavan had spent a number of years there. So, I always show, when I say people that we have engineering department, they say, how can you have engineering department? It's for science institute. And then I get irritated when educated people talk about it. So that is why I like to show that our act permits us to have anything. It is same act which IITs have. There are 7 ICERs which were established on a pattern of IC and IITs as an institution of national importance by MHRD. The first 2 ICERs were set up in 2006, Pune and Kolkata. Then third one came in Mohali. 4th and 5th were set up same time, that is 2008. 6th one came in Tirupati, 2015, and 7th one came in Berhampur, Odisha, 2016. In fact, Odisha had the privilege of having 2 such institutes, NICER and ICER. And 8th also has been announced in Nagaland, but so far I have not heard anything about it. If you look at the location of ICERs, we are in center. And you have all the 7 ICERs. This is the humble beginning. I still remember 2008 when I came to Bhopal. I came and went back to Kanpur. And I didn't want to come here again because nothing was there. I had rented a car, I'll just go to eat some pan, come here, go to Vallabh Bhavan, for the land was not there, transit campus was not there. And nobody bothered about it. So finally, again after a week I came, I joined on 12th June, because classes had to start in August. And that is why we have this inauguration function, because we complete 1 decade. And the camp, sometime I think in July we got the transit campus which did not have a toilet. In fact, for months it did not have a toilet. So this is the office I spent close to maybe 3 months. Me along with couple of people, no staff for 1 year, there is no faculty. So that is why, luckily I have a picture, one picture. And that time, when you are hungry, you don't worry about pizza. You want something to eat. So I never worried about taking picture, which I repented. So if you look at the milestones, established 2008, I joined on 12th June. Classes started from the transit campus in August 2008. Normally classes should have started end of July, but since there was no classroom, no chair, no lab, no faculty, no office person, I was the only one. From chaprasi to director to teacher, whatever you say. Now, getting a land is a tougher task in our country. It's not easy to get land. Finally, we got land, not only for ICER Bhopal, but even School of Planning and Architecture. In fact, I had additional charge of School of Planning and Architecture for more than a year in the beginning to establish SPA. Then construction started in February 2008. I knew nothing about construction. I met Professor Dhande and he said, "Yaar, CPW se mat banwana koi building." Actually, I did not know full form of CPWD. I knew it, but if you ask in seconds and say, that time I am talking about it. Finally, we created IWD and construction started. In-house construction we did. Even secretary, that time additional secretary Ashok Thakur said, "तुम फंस जाओगे विनोद." Then I told him, जो लड़ने जाता है वो मरने से नहीं डरता. As a professor in IIT Kanpur, I was getting more money as a director. Not because director's salary was less, but sometimes professor earned more money than director. So what I'm trying to say that if you take any responsibility, you should not worry about consequences. Otherwise, you should not take the responsibility. So we completed the project. In fact, among all new institutes, IISER and new IITs, IISER Bhopal is the first one to close the project which was approved by cabinet. And started yearly budget mode. So this is a master plan. I have already shown our guests the whole campus. This is the academic area we have. And currently we are located here. This is the academic area, this is the hostel area, this is the residential area and guest house and other things. So this is the master plan because our contour of the land is longish and so we had to design that way. Governance structure I will not stress too much because our governance structure is exactly like IIT. So I'll skip this slide. The academic program, we have BSMS dual program. Frankly speaking, when I became director, I had zero say because I never liked BSMS program. I always liked BS 4-year program. But in life, you have to accept. You have to go with majority. So we have a BSMS dual degree program. Admission is after 10+2. And we have 3 modes of admission, JEE, KVPY, and state and central board. And Inspire our KVPY scholarship we have. It's bad that since now number of students in IISER Bhopal, we are admitting 300 students compared to other IISERs. Other IISER admitting 200, so there's not enough money, so everyone doesn't get a scholarship, which is fine, I think. Because one should not, it's not socialistic, everyone should not get everything. We have a BS and MS program. Why I am saying BSMS? Because we have started 4-year BS program in economic sciences. By adding 1 year, you can get BSMS. And in the beginning, we started BSMS engineering program, but that also we are going to convert. Senate has approved 4-year BS, and by adding 1 year, you can get BSMS. And you get PhD and PhD program like any other institutes. These are the academic units. We have a natural science stream where we have these 5 departments: biology, chemistry, earth sciences, mathematics, physics. Engineering science stream, we have 2 departments, Department of Chemical Engineering, because you should never have chemistry department unless you have chemical engineering. Electrical engineering and computer science, how can you have physics without electrical engineering? How can you have a mathematics without computer science? So, once we had an act, and so these 2, it took 3-4 years to have this department by empowered committee. And then humanities and social sciences stream we have, which is a very important component of the education system. We have HSS department, where we have mainly faculty in English, and now sociology we are going to add. Number is small. Now we have carved out a separate department, Department of Economic Sciences. Hopefully someday you get Nobel Prize, because Nobel Prize is given in economic sciences. And we have less number of faculty, but hopefully we'll build it. From this year, we have admitted students separately in a 4-year BS program in economic science. Center of Excellence, because this is my experience from past says that if you make a building for any center of excellence, it doesn't last long. So I always like virtual places for Center of Excellence. So currently we have like Center for Research on Environment and Sustainable Technology, project funded by MHRD, and creates Center for Research in Advanced Technology for Education in Science. We also have Innovation Incubation Center for Entrepreneurship, and we have COPE, Center for Outreach Program in Education. This is very close to our heart. Right from 2008, we are doing outreach activity, calling high school students to our campus. Now we call close to 200 students. They spend a week, have hand-on experience in chemistry, physics, and biology. and Dr. Madhumita Mukherjee is a coordinator for POPE. Now under this program, we do various activities. Student strength, India is we are very poor in scale. Our land is 200. You know what is the area of MIT? Less than 200 acre, 160, 70 acre. They have 15,000 students. Look at Texas Austin, 800 acre, they have 37,000 students. So we must have large number of students, but it takes time. As you can see that as of 2nd August, we have 1,550 students. The good thing is we have large number of girl students. For example, in BSMS dual degree, we have 31% girl students. Economics, we have 42%. PhD, we have 34%. And integrate PhD, we have 31%. Faculty strength, as of now, we have 114 faculty in different departments. Total value of projects sanctioned, as you can see, year-wise, it has been increasing. This year, we have close to 6.7 crores. Year is still, several months have to go in this year. If you look at publications, there is a gradual increase in number of publications. Last year, we published 292 papers. Till now, this year, we have published 158 papers. Other thing we like to emphasize with our faculty, I don't stress on number, I like to stress on quality, and I believe that is more important. This is the expenditure part. The total money given by Government of India is close to 1,000 crore till 31st March 2018. And if you look at the infrastructure, 660 crores was received. Out of 660 crore, 460 we have spent on construction. So whatever buildings you are seeing in the campus cost us 460 crore, and equipment cost is close to 200 crore. Well, vehicle, there are two vehicles that they don't cost much. Recurring expenditure, we have spent 350 crores and 110 crore have gone to salary and 230 crore for other recurring expenses. So project is closed. Money is spent, and now we are in a second phase. Way forward, we have to strengthen whatever departments we have established. We have to attract bright and motivated faculty. That is a very challenging job. We have to increase student strength by enhancing capacity in existing program, and I believe that is very, very important. I also believe that we have to create and nurture the virtual centers in thematic areas. Like people from different departments can come, have a virtual centers and do research. And we have to seek industry support and promote collaborative research. And with this is the summary of IISER Bhopal. And today is a very auspicious day because from today, after 1 month, my term will be over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experiences and helping us to relive some of the most cherished moments. I now request our chief guest, Padma Shri Professor Vijay Raghavan, to kindly occupy his seat on the dais and would request our director to kindly accompany him. I now request Ms. Ashwarya, our BSMS student, to kindly welcome our chief guest. I request Ms. Divya Rashmi to kindly welcome our director, Professor Vinod Singh. At the very beginning of this function, we will be having the distribution of C.N.R. Rao Education Foundation Prize. This biannual award is bestowed on the first year BSMS student or students securing the highest CPI. I am delighted to inform you that Mr. Punyashloka Sahu will be conferred with the CNR Rao Education Foundation Prize for obtaining the highest CPI of a perfect 10 on a 10-point scale at the end of 2017-18 second semester. I request our chief guest to kindly hand over the certificate and a cash prize of Rs 5,000 to the winner, Mr. Sahu. Congratulations, Punyashloka, and thank you, sir, for doing the honors. Now we will have our panelists for the Chintan Shivir to share their words of wisdom and address the gathering. So I'll introduce our panelists and request them to kindly come over to the stage, and I'll request our chief guest to kindly hand over a memento, and then I'll request the panelists to share their words of wisdom for some time and address the gathering. I'll first welcome Professor Swaminathan Shivaram. Professor Shivaram is presently an honorary professor and INSA senior scientist at IISER Pune. Prior to this, he was the head Polymer Chemistry Division, NCL Pune, between 1988 to 2002 and served as the director of NCL from 2002 to 2010. Besides being a fellow of all the 3 science academies in India, Professor Shivaram is the recipient of the Shant Swarup Bhatnagar Award, Lifetime Achievement Award in Chemical Research from CRSI India, Honorary Doctor of Science from the Purdue University, Fellow of IUPAC and RSC, just to name a few. The Government of India conferred the Civilian Award of Padma Shri in 2006. With these words, I request Professor Shivaram, please.
A very good morning. Director IISER Bhopal, Vinod Singh, Vijayaraghavan, Professor Vijayaraghavan, many distinguished friends of mine sitting in the audience, ladies and gentlemen, and my very young friends whom I see in this hall full. I didn't come prepared to make a speech. I was told about an hour ago that I have to say something here. What else can I say? I heard what Vinod just talked about, the birth of an institution and its journey of first 10 years. I think it's a remarkable journey. We just went around the campus a few hours ago, and it's a symbol of an outstanding commitment to quality, excellence, and nurturing the best in our society. I'd like to compliment Vinod for this humongous effort, because I know, having been associated with building many institutions, that it takes a deep commitment and a sense of sacrifice of your personal goals to build a new institutions. And I think we need to therefore give a big hand to Vinod for this stupendous effort. I go back in time because I've been associated with the creation of ICER right from day one. And my link with the idea of ICER dates back to 2004 when I was called for a meeting in Delhi. And we talked about why ICER at the time. There were many ideas exchanged across the table. And then I was requested by Professor C.N.R. Rao, at the time the principal scientific advisor to the government of Manmohan Singh. He formed a 3-member group with me, Professor Balaram and Sushanta Dattagupta to create what is called a vision document for ICER. But it was only a 2-page document that we wrote, and it was accepted by the government and approved by the cabinet in a record time of 6 months. I never seen. In fact, we all thought that this is another paper that we buried somewhere, never to see the light of the day. But we were shocked to see that within 8 months, I get a letter from the Ministry of Human Resources Development that you have to build an ICER in Pune, and can you start the academic session in 2006 August, So I had this rare privilege of being the first project director of ICER in Pune. So I think it's a great journey. And of course, in Pune, there was an advantage because we decided to share a part of our land of CSIR NCL with ICER Pune. So they had a ready-made infrastructure, unlike the pain and anguish that we know faced in Bhopal, or for that matter, in many other places where ICERs were created. Therefore, it's a remarkable journey of ICER. People always say, why do we need elite institutions in this country when many of our legacy institutions are dying? This is an argument one can always make, but I always believe that creation and destruction must go hand in hand. One need not worry about reviving only the people who are on the verge of dying, but we can revive them if we need to, if there's a will for us to revive, but we need not use that excuse to stop creating, because creation and destructions are two sides of the same coin, and without both functioning in an ecosystem, nothing will progress in this world. So I strongly believe, although there was several arguments from very many people as to why another set of elite institutions we need to create, but I think ICERs in the course of the next 20, 30 years will prove that creation does not happen at the cost of existing institutions. Nobody stops the existing institutions from growing, and I think they should all be supported. But it should not also mean that we don't need new institutions. I strongly believe that we have been extremely slow in creating new institutions. The domains of knowledge are changing. The world is changing. The way we teach and learn is changing. And unless you create new institutions, you can never bring those flavor into our system. And I think it's very important to create new institutions. Many of you are sitting here. You are very fortunate to be educated in one of the finest of our institutions in this country. It's not easy, we all visit many places and see the status of our universities, status of our institutions. So I think all of you must consider yourself extremely fortunate that you have this ambience, you have this extraordinary facilities, and I hope that you do great work in the future, either as a student or as a researcher or by becoming a useful citizen of India. Good luck to all of you, and I hope that, although he said that he will be leaving in another month, but I hope the flag of ICER will keep flying. Leadership will come and go. Leadership has to change. It's an inevitable part of our life. But I think once you establish a robust foundation, which I think Vinod has done, I think this institution can only go ahead, can only go higher in the years to come. Thank you very much for having me here on this occasion.
Thank you, sir. Our next panelist is Professor V. Chandrasekhar. Presently the Director of TIFS Center for Interdisciplinary Sciences, Hyderabad, Professor Chandrasekhar also served as the Director of NISER Bhubaneswar before he moved to TIFR. His research interests are in the area of inorganic rings and polymers, main group organometallic chemistry, metal clusters, and molecular materials. He is a fellow of all three science academies in India and recipient of Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize, Silver Medal of CRSI, among others. He is also an adjunct faculty of the Department of Chemistry, IISER Bhopal.
Professor Vijay Raghavan, Vinod Singh, and Saptarshi. This is a googly because I wasn't anticipating to talk now, but later. But it's wonderful to see 10 years of this institute go by. Fortunately, I was associated with this institute from the very beginning. Coming from Kanpur and Vinod's confidence in me for various things that needed to be done in this institute, including parts of selection committee and various committees and so on. So I hope that we have done a reasonable job in those committees in recruiting faculty, some of whom are prospering and doing extremely well today. And that is a wonderful thing. And I have seen Vinod go through the pains and travails of finding the land, creating the buildings and so on, from the first building and from the first room that he had shown. And every time I come, his enthusiasm has not waned. Actually, it has increased, and he keeps showing what new things have been added since the last time I came. And building institutes is not easy, as Professor Shivaram has said. And although I do not have such extensive experience as he, but I have some experience myself working at NISER Bhubaneswar and now at TIFR Hyderabad. Creating things from the scratch is an extremely difficult thing. I think it is remarkable that Professor Vinod Singh has been able to accomplish what he has done in 10 years' time, not only in terms of the physical infrastructure, but also the people that he has been able to recruit, and his vision in terms of expanding the IISER original vision into including engineering sciences and economics and social sciences. I think it is really something that is needed in many of our institutions. I will talk a little later in the afternoon in terms of our seemingly difficult, we seem to have a difficulty in managing institutions after we have created them. Actually, Professor Govardhan Mehta was once mentioning to me that in India, the average life of an institute approximately is about 30 years, and afterwards it seems to fall down. I do hope that IISER Bhopal would be against this sort of a trend that Professor Govardhan Mehta had predicted. And one of the things that IISER Bhopal is lucky to have, like IIT Kanpur had, was its founder director, IIT Kanpur, had P.K. Kelkar, whom we still remember for the traditions that he had set up. And I think IISER Bhopal will also remember in the years to come, long after Professor Vinod Singh has left, in terms of the marvelous job that he has done in terms of not just setting the place, but in setting the traditions and setting the ambience that allows people to work. So I do hope that the next decade of IISER Bhopal will be even more prosperous in terms of the productivity of its students and faculty, and IISER Bhopal will be known for its academic contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Missile Woman of India, Dr. Tessie Thomas, is presently the Director General Aeronautical Systems, DRDO, and is also the Chairperson, Board of Governors, IISER Trivandrum. Prior to this, she was the Project Director for Agni 4 missile, and she is the first woman scientist to head a missile project in India. Named after Mother Teresa, Dr. Thomas has always been a prolific scholar. She joined DRDO in 1988 and was placed in the Department of Design and Development of New Generation Ballistic Missile Agni. For this program, she was appointed by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Dr. Thomas received the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Award for a contribution in making India self-reliant in the field of missile technology. I now welcome her.
Very respected Professor Vijay Raghavan, sir, Professor Vinod Singh, Director IISER Bhopal, and Professor Mukherjee, and all the very distinguished guests and members present here. A very good morning to all of you. Indeed, I am privileged to come over here, see this campus. I have seen many institutions, IIT, IISc, IISERs. I think I must declare this is one of the best institutions in our country. As said by Professor Mukherjee, I am the chairperson to IISER Trivandrum. So I have seen in and out of Trivandrum. A great institution again, IISER. It's doing well. Just moved to the new campus. And within 10 years, the infrastructure and the technology, water science and technology, creations and innovations, this center has created, it's marvelous, it is unbelievable. Like we say, it's really transformative. And I'm happy that the students here are so fortunate that you are educating from a very highly scientific institution, which is teaching you not only science along with the technology. That's what it makes the difference of IISER, as what we said. Today you have the knowledge in front of you. How you pick up and learn is what it matters. And from what you think about what we learned engineering, it's one textbook prescribed for one subject. And today it is not that world, it's knowledge around. And I think that is how the creativity and the innovations are started coming. And this is a wonderful opportunity. It's my request to all the students, tap this opportunity and learn and excel in your career and in your life. I just saw the map, what has been the 200 acres of IISER Bhopal. It resembled, to me, it just depicts Kerala, geographically. And I heard from your director, around 50% of students are here from Kerala. I think as students, they look for the best and they are here with you, sir. Thank you. And I'm sure this institute will excel days to come. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Professor Manindra Agarwal is currently the Deputy Director of IIT Kanpur. He is undoubtedly one of the finest mathematicians we have in our country and is considered a world leader in complexity theory. He is a recipient of numerous awards, and I'm not going to spell them out. He is a winner of the TWAS Prize in Mathematics, the Infosys Prize for Mathematics. He is a fellow of all the Academies of Sciences, and he is also an adjunct professor in Department of Mathematics, IISER Bhopal.
Professor Vijay Raghavan, Professor Vinod Singh, Professor Saptarshi Mukherjee, all the distinguished guests, faculty members, students, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure to be here to celebrate the second decade of IISER Bhopal. I remember the dingy set of rooms in the Gas Rahat building. I think it should be declared as a heritage building and all the students here should be taken for a tour of that. Because before you leave, can you ensure that? It's something it's a place to be seen, only then you can believe what it was and where we are now. It's a tremendously transformative and remarkable journey that has happened over the last decade, and I've been fortunate to be a witness to this. It's also remarkable the progress that IISER Bhopal in particular and IISERs in general that have made over the last 1 decade. If one compares it with the other institutions, say the IITs, several IITs that were set up just about a decade ago, it's very clear that IISERs have established themselves in a much more stronger way than as compared to those institutions. And the credit for that certainly goes to the visionary leadership provided by the founding directors of these IISERs. In particular, IISER Bhopal is really fortunate to have Professor Singh as the founding director, because it's rare to find a person who can do everything, from checking if the size and shape of the water pipe is the right one, the color is of the right kind, the texture as well, to doing a planning at a very high level and deciding how large rooms should be and where they should come up and so on. And then continue. Of course, this is at the infrastructure level, then at the recruitment of faculty, identifying right set of faculty, pursuing them. So it's rare to, as I said, find such an individual, and the result of him being associated with IISER Bhopal is evident to everyone here. It's a wonderful foundation that has been laid, and this is something that IISER Bhopal can really build on, and the responsibility for that is on all the new young faces here, the young faculty and the students. You have a great platform. Please build upon it. Make IISER Bhopal a world-class institution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have Professor Tapas Kumar Kundu amongst us, who is the head of the Transcription and Disease Laboratory, JNCR, Bangalore. He has made phenomenal contribution in cancer diagnostics and development of new drugs candidates for cancer and AIDS therapeutics. He is again recipient of almost all the awards and rewards in India, and I'm not going to spell them out. But what I'm going to mention is that I have the information that Professor Kundu has been appointed as the next director of CDRI Lucknow, and he will be assuming charge very soon.
Professor Vijay Raghavan, Professor Vinod Singh, distinguished guests, dear faculty colleagues, and dearest students. It's an opportunity to stand in front of you along with all the distinguished guests, and Vinod is sitting here, and next to that is Professor Vijay Raghavan, and talk a few words. And I was not involved greatly with the whole journey of decades, 1 full decade of building up this fantastic institute, but partly I was involved especially for the biology department. And I thank Professor Singh to give me that opportunity once in a while. And today I'm so pleased to see not only the beautiful campus, a complete institute, and when I look to the different departments and labs, it really fills my heart with joy. And it gives me an idea that how a person, if there is a purity, patience, and perseverance, can really dedicate himself to build up this kind of institute in just 10 years' time. I thank Professor Singh for this fantastic job, and he is inspiration to all of us. I'm sure he will be somehow or the other associated with this institute and take this IISER and several other institutes in progress in due course. See, being a chemist, Today morning when I was having a morning walk, I was just walking near the hostel area. I found such a wonderful designing of plantation. There is a amla plant, there is a bale, and there is a parijat. The flowers are also on the ground. And some of the cases the amla has come already there. See, this is a very scientific way. The placement has been done. The larger trees are with the 12 feet and the amla trees are in the 7 feet distance. Being a student of biologist and later on chemical biology little bit, I found this is a fantastic idea in terms of pollination, in terms of medicinal plants, and in terms of the nearby is the neem trees. I don't know who gave this idea. I'm sure this is behind him. Behind all this is him. And this is fantastic. I mean, those of you will be studying the biology, chemistry, physics together, you will really appreciate later on a person has to have a fantastic knowledge of agriculture and the floriculture and the the horticulture to do this job. So you can see that there is a passion behind it. This is the passion I think we all need, and this is the passion will take us forward. See, the one important point, this is what I'm talking to you, not the advice. It is the realization, as Swami Vivekananda said, the energy is all within us. And with the right environment, we have to believe on us and we have to expose our divinity. And I think that is the word of India today, that we have to take the country forward, awakening within the energy what we have. And that is what Professor Singh has shown to all of you, that yes, it is possible. The last two sentences what I am trying to tell you is the nature of science today. Again, this is my realizations, and I'm sure all of you will agree with me that the era is going to come in front is the interdisciplinary science. Science cannot be done alone. We all know that. Science cannot be done from the one angle. And science is an interdisciplinary science. A biologist must know mathematics. A biologist must know the chemistry. And so as the chemist must know the biology. And ISER, what I find is a fantastic idea to exchange the ideas and to build up the interdisciplinary science in a very right direction. Yesterday evening when we were having an evening walk after the dinner, I saw a bunch of flowers. And these flowers are Homo sapiens. And Homo sapiens S, whom I call the scientist. They must have joined just now, and Professor Singh was telling me, see, they have come just new. They are making the friendship. So this friendship, build up the friendship. I grew up in the environment of IISc. And the main thing what we got in Indian Institute of Science is the grooming. And that grooming was not from the lab head, grooming from the friends. So my young friends, I would like to share with you that this grooming also let it spread from personal to the science. Let you develop the interdisciplinary science and take the country forward, take the science forward. As Louis Pasteur says, that there is no applied science. This is only applications of science. So we all should do fundamental science in an interdisciplinary manner and try to take the country forward with the applications of science. Okay? So I was not prepared to say anything, but I'm inspired by seeing all of you and by seeing the environment and by seeing the institute. And these few words, I'm talking from the very bottom of my heart. I wish you all the best. I'm sure you will take ISER Bhopal in forward. You will take the country forward. You will take the science forward of the nation. Thank you very much.
Considered as one of the finest chemical biologists of a country, Professor Sandeep Verma works on peptide and protein assemblies and soft matter. He is a recipient of almost all the awards and recognitions in India and has been associated with ISER Bhopal right from its very inception. He is an adjunct faculty in the Department of Chemistry, ISER Bhopal. I welcome Professor Verma.
Good morning. Professor Vijay Raghavan, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. Professor Vinod Singh, Director, IISER Bhopal. Professor Saptarishi Mukherjee, Deputy Director. Distinguished guests, faculty members, students. It's a rare privilege to be here standing in front of all of you as you celebrate 1 decade of your inception. So let me take this opportunity to felicitate Professor Singh, all faculty members, staff and students of this very, very fine institute on this journey covered so far. And as I was involved with this institute from the very beginning, I cannot help but remember sometime in 2008, we were here called by Professor Singh to look at the land that was allocated to the institute, and I have to just close my eyes. There was nothing. It was such tough terrain, and it was unimaginable that something what we see now today could come up in such a short period of time, including what he mentioned that the project is closed and they are really going ahead full steam with the next phase of their inception. So I would like to paraphrase my hero, icon, Dr. Abdul Kalam, that he did not dream with eyes closed. He dreamt of an institute with eyes wide open. And what you see today is the embodiment of his very, very hard work, conceptualizing an institute, his vision, followed by the hard work of the faculty members, indeed, including the first one who was hired to the one who has been hired very recently. So students who have worked and brought this institute laurels and quite a bit of recognition. So with this, I would like to sort of felicitate him again with blending, this aesthetics with practicality in making this institute, hiring the best faculty members, as we see that, as Professor Agrawal pointed out, that many institutions who came into being at the same point of time are struggling to get up, to get full steam going, and IISER Bhopal, as you see, is really standing, and its visibility in the entire country is undoubted and quite remarkable. So with these words, I wish all of you the very best as you embark on your second phase, the arduous second decade of your existence, and many more to come, of course, and with the hope that the excellence that has been maintained so far will rise, because the expectations, once we have achieved so high, I mean, every ladder that you climb now would be more visible to everybody. So keep it up, and Godspeed to all of you for the second decade and many more to come. Thank you very much.
I'm really happy to have my present colleague, Dr. Ramya Sundar Raman, as a part of this esteemed panel. And she does not really require an introduction to this audience. She's the head, Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences, and has been shouldering many administrative responsibilities in our institution. I welcome Ramya.
Distinguished guests, special invitees, colleagues and dear friends. As you may have gathered from the introduction of the various panelists, I'm the joker in this pack, right? But a joker has a great advantage. I can morph to be anything that one needs to complete the sequence and win the rummy, right? So I hope I can complete the sequence here for you now. All of our guests, of course, have shared their perspectives as outsiders or by virtue of being associated with the Institute for a long time. I can, of course, share perspectives as an insider to this system. I joined in 2009, less than a year after the Institute commenced, so I have lots to share with you. I did come in, much like the first-year students who are here, bright-eyed, looking to the Institute and what it may have to offer, both with a sense of anticipation and fear. It's wonderful that things have turned out to be the way they have been, and I've had some opportunity and ability to contribute to that growth. Yes, the Institute has grown a lot in those 10 years, but so have I, both as an individual as a researcher, as a teacher, and as a person. When they hired me, a chemical engineer who'd gone so far astray that I could not perhaps be a chemical engineer any longer, to head the Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences, I don't know what they were thinking. I certainly don't know what I was thinking. But in the last 10 years or so, we've of course been able to build what I'd like to think as a progressive, multidisciplinary, one-of-its-kind experiment in earth and environmental sciences across IITs and IISers. I've of course not done that on my own. I've had the good fortune of wonderful leadership. The directors pretty much given us a free hand in trusting us with what we've envisioned and what we wanted to build. And of course, unparalleled academic mentorship, which I still have the privilege of enjoying from Professor Tandon, ex-Pro Vice Chancellor, Delhi University, who's seated in the audience today. I hope some of you have the opportunity to credit a course or two from him in the days to come. I've also had other great opportunities that the Institute has given me, including heading the Office of Academic Affairs for a short stint. This was the time of the first two convocations of the Institute. The hall that you are sitting in today was a very exciting place to be in. Our first convocation was to be in 2 or 3 days. We didn't have all of the false roofing, the paneling, and the chairs work done. Until the morning of the convocation, we were speculating about venue A and venue B to hold the convocation, right? Then, of course, we had the good fortune of very many distinguished chief guests, including the President of India, Shri Pranab Mukherjee, who graced our second convocation. I've also had the good fortune of being involved in some other efforts, such as convening the National Advisory Committee for Engineering Sciences here at IISER Bhopal. So it's been a really, really intense, tiring, demanding, but gratifying experience of learning, growing, and being supported by such extraordinary mentorship and leadership during my stay at IISER Bhopal. So while I look back at the last 10 years with a sense of satisfaction and gratification, I look forward to what is to come with both anticipation and a keen awareness of the responsibilities that are upon us to succeed. For we have no excuse to fail. We've been given pretty much everything that we need to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramya. I now request our director to kindly introduce our chief guest and request him to address the gathering.
Professor K. Vijayaraghavan. He was born on 3rd February 1954. Presently the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. He served as the Secretary of DBT for 5 years from January 2013 till February 2018. He also held additional charge of Secretary DST, Secretary CSIR, Secretary MOES, and Secretary Department of Health Research during his stint at New Delhi. He graduated from IIT Kanpur. He did BTech in Chemical Engineering in 1975 and also completed his Master's thereafter. He obtained his PhD from TIFR Mumbai and carried out his postdoctoral work at Caltech. In 1988, Professor Vijayaraghavan returned to India and joined his alma mater, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, as a reader. However, in 1991, he moved to Bangalore and played a seminal role in establishing the new institute, National Center for Biological Sciences, which is called NCBS. He rose to become the director of NCBS and has been instrumental in making NCBS as one of the finest research institutes of the country. Friends, it's not just a name of excellence. NCBS is really an institute of excellence, not just a given name. In the country, this is the only international institute. This is the only institute which can match internationally in biology. And this is all because of Professor Vijayaraghavan. Without losing his research, he was able to build an institution of a different kind. He is considered a world leader in development biology, genetics, and neurogenetics. He uses Drosophila as a model system, and his research primarily focuses on the important principles and mechanisms that control nervous system and muscles. He is a fellow of Royal Society, foreign associate of U.S. National Academy of Sciences, U.S., fellow of TWAS, the World Academy of Sciences, all three science academy in India. He is the recipient of several prizes, including Shansharu Bhatnagar Prize and Infosys Prize. In 2013, he was conferred the civilian order Padma Shri by the Government of India. With these words, I now welcome Professor Vijay Raghavan. We all look forward to his address.
Thank you very much, Professor Vinod Singh, Saptarishi, and all the distinguished guests, students in particular, and faculty. It's really a great honor to be here. One of the advantages in speaking last is that you can start preparing your talk when the first speaker starts. But the problem is that by the time it's time for you to speak, everyone has said everything that needs to be said. So there's no point preparing. In a manner, it's similar to being an undergraduate. You keep postponing the preparation for your exams until it's too late, and then you prepare for the next exam and it's too late. And one of the wonderful experiences, seeing you all, first of all, I'm very nervous because I can see what's going through your head when you see someone speaking from this side, because I was a student once at that side. So don't tell me what you're thinking. But importantly, I also have a trepidation about, what does one talk about to an audience like you? And one of the most enjoyable aspects of my undergraduate life was, and this is a top secret announcement, so this is just for us, is classes are not too important, your courses are not very important, your teachers are not very important, what you study is not important. What's really important is the realization that for each of you, there's 1,000 other people who are better than you. You're good at something, someone else is good at something else, and the friendships you make and the camaraderie you get will last your lifetime. So 10 years, 20 years, 30 years later, when you need to solve a problem, you're just an email or a phone call away, and your alumni network increases that. So it's that network which you create, the bonding which you get is the most important. Everything else is important, but a few orders of magnitude less than making friends. So enjoy your life, and you'll remember your friendship all your life after that. Yet, you're all very young people, and you're on a planet which is in a very, very strange situation. So what I'll try to tell you today is very briefly how we came about being in this situation as a planet, and how we as humans have changed the planet, how science has grown and science in India has grown, and finally, what do we do as scientists and engineers in our future for here. So it looks like a lot, but I'll be very brief. I asked Saptarishi whether you're going to get a free lunch after this, and he said no. So I think the people in the front row get a free lunch, but you don't. So I'll be as brief as possible. Now the planet is currently in an extraordinary mess, and a significant part of the mess is our doing. How did this happen? When life on Earth came about, and that's still a mystery about how exactly life originated, at that wall at t is equal to 0, all organisms, let's say as a first approximation, were unicellular organisms. And then, accident upon accident, you got multicellular organisms and different forms of life, different complexities of life. But one aspect was very important, which is all these organisms were connected by a shared chemistry. the basic chemistry of life right through is common. And that chemistry is underlying that chemistry is the thread of DNA. And this means that understanding any form of life can be done by understanding any other form of life. So if you want to cure cancer, you don't have to study cancer. You can study a bacteria, you can study a plant, you can study cancer. And accidents happen and you make discoveries which are relevant to different aspects of life. So this is a very peculiar feature of life forms. The other peculiar feature of life is that every action of ours is relevant from a very minor, very small molecular scale right up to an organismal one. So when I see something, photons hit my eye, and then it results in motor action. So right from the molecular to the large scale, life forms act instantly, almost. How did all this come about in terms of our role on this planet? Humans, like every other organism, were part of the battle for survival. And 65 million years ago, when an asteroid hit the planet, a meteorite hit the planet maybe, that eliminated many forms of life, the dinosaurs, and resulted in the growth of mammals. Mammals took over the planet slowly, and humans were amongst them. And one of the peculiarities of our ancestors, our shared ancestors with primates, other primates, was that we started becoming bipedal. We stood up and started walking. Another peculiarity was our ancestors got the ability to oppose thumb and forefinger, and we got the ability to speak. And all this happened in a rather dramatic, speedy manner, which allowed us not only to survive, to make tools, to the use of fire allowed us to cook food. That meant that we got a huge amount of energy possible in a small meal, which other animals couldn't get. That allowed, presumably, our brain to grow much bigger in proportion to the rest of our body. That over-design allowed the capability, along with the ability to speech, to have language. Language allowed us to communicate across distances. And that liberated us from natural selection, from evolution by natural selection, to cultural evolution. We transmitted our knowledge from generation to generation, not just by inheritance directly, but by inheritance of culture and passing that on. This and the development of tools meant that we started steadily changing the planet. Agriculture was the first context. Livestock, domestication of animals and plants changed the planet substantially. 10,000 years ago, it is said that humans and their livestock constituted something like 0.1% of vertebrate biomass on the planet. Today, humans and our livestock constitute 98% of vertebrate biomass on the planet. So, from being objects which survived on the canvas of life, we have become actually those who wield the paintbrush and paint the canvas. Humans are changing the planet. Now, this period, called the Anthropocene, may have started when we took to agriculture. Some say it started when the first atomic bomb was tested in New Mexico. But whatever it is, humans have brought enormous change on the planet. And that change, for example, was symbolized by the discovery of the hole in the ozone layer and resulting awareness about greenhouse gases, climate change, global warming, and so on and so forth. The question is, what does one do about this? To understand what one needs to do about it, one needs to also see how we came about to this situation in terms of our industrial growth. Because that relates to one of the big challenges all of us have here, all of you have particularly in this room, which is how to lift, on one hand, billions of people out of poverty, and on the other side, have a sustainable planet. Because the models for lifting people out of poverty so far have required, in essence, the economic, social, or political exploitation of others. Today, the challenge is how can one go out of poverty without such exploitation? So, for example, at the start of the colonial periods, growth of the colonial countries took place at the cost of the countries they colonized, and therefore that allowed a rapid growth. After the Industrial Revolution, raw material came from the colonies, so that was a free lunch, and that allowed rapid growth. Afterwards, the consumerism of big powers allowed them to sell to markets everywhere using labor which was available, and that again was a form of, there was a gap, there was a binary, and that resulted in a form of exploitation. Now we have come about post-internet age, where the dominance of big capacity and industrialized society because of their science has changed from that to a situation where the development of what's called cyber-physical situations allows manufacturing to take place very close to those contexts in advanced societies where the products are needed, with the result that labor arbitrage and price arbitrage due to labor is no longer viable, and therefore you're going to have a situation where again products are going to be manufactured elsewhere without employment in other contexts, and therefore they're going to be an exploitative situation again. So this is a huge challenge because of the rapid change in the way industry has developed over 150 years or so. In that situation, what has science done in India, and how is science changing in India? Science in India, like science elsewhere in the world, in the 19th century and early 20th century, was essentially the purview of gentlemen scientists. Very few women were involved. And these scientists worked in situations, in contexts such as the presidency colleges in Madras, Delhi, Bombay, Madras, Calcutta, Bombay, which were set up as institutions to train people to run the Indian Empire, the British Indian Empire. Right? So the job of these colleges were to train lawyers, economists, or civil servants who will serve the British Empire. Amongst those who joined these places, and they were modeled in a manner similar to colleges in the UK. Amongst those who joined these colleges were people who were subversive. By subversive, I don't mean actively involved in revolting against the British, but subversive in the sense that they thought independently, in a manner which I think all students should be subversive, because part of it, you have a regular curriculum which wants you to do something, but you should also be able to think independently. And J.C. Bose was one such person. In a very different way, Srinivasa Ramanujan was another kind of person. And these people, these brilliant individuals, did absolutely stunning world-class science. At that time, long before communication at the speed we know of today happened, these people wrote letters and they got replies. And if you wrote a letter every day, you would effectively get a reply every day. And there were a few dozen people whom you would like to write to. So you were actually in very good touch with the best people in the world. And the numbers of such people were rather small. So you could keep in touch, and these geniuses who randomly came up could be in touch with other such geniuses. But after Second World War, and just before and just after, science became institutionalized globally. And this happened in Europe, and much more rapidly in America, and Europe caught up a little later. Japan is another example. China and India also have major institutions in science, and all our major scientific institutions started just before or just after independence. And this institutionalization of science resulted in a very large number of people taking to science. No longer was science and quality research the purview of random people who had a passion for it, but there was an institutional funnel which took people through and took them out at the other end. In that situation, people often ask, why is it at that time we had the Ramanujans and the J.C. Boses and the C.V. Ramans and so on, but why don't we have them today? And the short answer is we do. Only difference is that the world has changed dramatically. At that time, there was a very few bright people all across the world. These were random fluctuations which came up. Today, the wall of excellence is fully occupied. And those countries which have institutes of excellence in very large number populate that wall of excellence hugely, and countries such as India, which have very few institutions of excellence, populate that wall sparsely. So the lottery has changed, the number of people playing it has changed. We are buying a smaller number of tickets. We have bright people, but nowhere in the world do bright people stand out because the number of bright people are huge. And therefore today when we pick on iconic people, a Fields medalist or a Nobel Prize winner, they're typically representatives of a class rather than the only member of that class. So we should celebrate brilliant scientists in post-independence India, men and women, and we need not celebrate only dead people. There are live scientists, there are many amongst you who are doing great science, many scientists in India doing wonderful science, people in the audience have done wonderful science, so we must celebrate them and not bemoan constantly the absence of quality science. Despite all our efforts, science in India has done really well compared to other structures, right? Now the question then is, given the state of global science and given the state of our science funding, our science efforts are much too small compared to the needs of our population, and they're much too small compared to what the West, for example, invests in science. If you take the University of Michigan, a Midwestern school amongst, not amongst the top few in the US, its investment in science totally will, as an institution, exceeds India's science budget. The University of California at San Francisco has more clinical researchers and more clinical research coming out of it, that one university, than all of India, right? So we must also keep a sense of perspective that our budgets are minuscule, the size of our efforts are small, and therefore we must see how best we can leverage that to do quality work. So I'd like to end by saying that this seems to be a rather difficult situation and offer a solution about how we can get out of it. What is the difficult situation? If we do science the way the rest of the world is doing, which is quality science, no question about it, we will never be able to catch up given the levels of our investment, right? China had 3 decades of about close to 10% growth, right? Resulting in a phenomenal investment in science. That's in a society, again, like the way I told you about how industrial development took place, in a society where you don't have constant social, political, democratic feedback. India, rightly so, has got all these feedback systems. Different sets of people, different regions, different populations have their rights and their demands, all justifiable, about the way we should go ahead. And therefore, in a non-exploitative system where we have to take people along, decision-making is going to be complex. It can be much faster, no doubt, but it's going to be complex. In that situation, how can we ever possibly think of catching up? We're not going to have 3 decades of 10% growth in the Chinese model. We can't have growth the way the West took place, which basically had the rest of the world as a colony. Right? So what do we do now? The answer to that came interestingly from, and I like to repeat this story, from Venki Ramakrishnan, who's a Nobel Prize winner of Indian origin. And when asked once about what kind of science India should do, he started by saying that, he doesn't know because he's not an Indian. He's done all his research in America and in the UK, so why ask him? But then he went on, in a typical Venki fashion, to give the answer. And he said that you should do 2 kinds of science. One, if you're doing science where the problems are defined by the West, make sure that you're competitive and you do quality science. There's nothing wrong in doing that. Where the best problems in mathematics, physics, or chemistry are defined by the West, make sure that you do high quality work. But if you want to excel and do better than the West, then you must, from your environment, choose those problems which become problems which the rest of the world wants to solve, and you take the lead and thereby tunnel through this wall of excellence which is there by doing something really very different. That's not easy, but that's what you need to do. Now, that doesn't mean that you do basic science, you do applied science, and you work, let's say on sanitation or tuberculosis or malaria. That's not the kind of new problem. The point is that we need to be inspired by our society, by our environment, by the problems around, whether it's in biology, physics, chemistry, or mathematics, define problems. And I must say that there are two sets of people I admire who have done a brilliant job of this. One is in science and one is not in science. The first is in our arts. Our musicians, our dancers, and our painters are inspired by our environment. They're not trying to, do music or dance or painting which is similar to the West. Some of them might do. But the really brilliant ones are those who have thought independently. In a similar manner, it's not that they're doing any less art. It's not that their art is easier. In a similar manner, our mathematicians are absolutely awesome. They, despite, doing problems which are competitive globally, they bring a particular Indian touch to it, an Indian approach to it. And this is a very peculiar characteristic of mathematicians all over the world. You look at a Russian mathematician, you know that that person is a Russian mathematician, or a French mathematician, or an Indian mathematician. But if you look at an Indian physicist or a biologist, you don't get a distinctiveness of being a physicist or of being an Indian physicist or an Indian biologist. And unless that distinctiveness comes in some way, and this is, I know, is a difficult idea to grasp, because that distinctiveness is not because you're working on a local problem. You can define a local problem to be a global one, or you can work on a global problem like the mathematicians do. So we really must think differently. How do we do that? My problem coming from looking at our top institutions, and Vinod mentioned NCBS, IISER Bhopal, you look at other places, IISER Pune, and so on and so forth, is that these institutions, all of us, are a short walk from India. We are in a bubble, and it's very important and good to be in a bubble. It's good to be in a bubble of excellence because you're unfettered by the problems around you. You can think deep, you can do wonderful things. But then if you're only in a bubble and you're not connected, that's bad. You need this isolation, this depth to be of quality, but you need to break that isolation and breadth to have impact on your society and learn from your society. So it's this balance of isolation. How much isolation do you need and how much connectivity do you need? We are now, in my opinion, at a very interesting stage in our history as a country and in the history of a planet where we need to go on our strengths. India is unusual amongst all the post-colonial countries that it can send a rocket up, it can manufacture pretty much many kinds of things. It's got an intelligentsia. It can understand any area of science. And now we must translate those kinds of brilliant ideas into engaging with our environment. As Vinod rightly pointed out, there isn't a distinction between basic and applied science. There's a distinction between good and bad science. And therefore, we must engage as an institution, as individuals, with our environment in multifarious ways. And that, in my view, as scientists, we're not doing sufficiently. Our scientists are constantly doing two kinds of things. One, working really hard and doing extraordinary science, by and large. That's very good. Secondly, when they engage with the public, when they engage with politicians, when they engage with our science agencies and so on, the simple argument which comes forth is, what can you do for me? Right? You're not funding us enough. Your processes are bad. We need more institutions. We need more flexibility. All of which are absolutely correct and valid arguments. No question about that. But if you must tactically, if you want to get more of those kinds of benefits, tactically and also in terms of moral principle, the broader purpose should be, what am I doing for the entire community for which I need all these flexibilities? that articulation is relatively modest amongst our scientific community. If we can increase that articulation and tell our society what we can do for them as well as ask what they can do for us, then science will play a very important role in our context. And given our demography, given that there are so many bright young people in India doing wonderful science, we can take the lead in going all over the world and making sure that our contributions to the planet and its sustainable development are there. And instead of having a model of industrial development which is colonial and exploitative and divides the world into different groups, our demography can actually be the lead for ensuring an equitable and sustainable development for the planet. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing the words of wisdom. May I now request a director to present a memento to a chief guest as a mark of respect and gratitude. With this, we come to the conclusion of this event. I take this opportunity to sincerely thank our chief guest, who has been very kind in sparing time from his busy schedule. Our sincere thanks are due to all the other dignitaries who are here with us, and more importantly, whom we shall hear in a few hours from now. Also, thanks to all the community members for their kind help and support, and more importantly, for the participation in this event. Thank you all once again.